Good day, folks. The curtains are down on the famous consequential visit of Modi to the United States. Curtains have come down, and now we got to run and catch the worm. We've got to make sure we make use of all the agreements that have been signed. This visit was, however, tinged or actually full front and center with a lot of controversy and opposition and civil society shout outs. However, in balance, it achieved a lot, and if you were to rate, I think it's on the positive, right? So while closing it out, see, the problem with this kind of blowback we got from civil society is actually, the contradictions. You know what's actually happening on the ground in India, and so does everybody else, right? We know what's happening is the Muslims, we know what's happening is the Christians, Dalits, scheduled caste, scheduled tribe. So when you go out there and make a statement, right, and sermonize somebody, the Senate, the House, the joint houses, and everybody about our democracy, it really rings hollow for people who actually know India. However, here we go. India-US relationship takes a leap of trust. This is written by Chanakya. A clear political direction by leaders who would not be more different yet found common ground. The hard work of their teams and the increasing areas of convergence and diminishing areas of differences led to a leap of bilateral ties during PM's visit. And this is basically essentially China up front and center and a weakening Russia, right? The road not taken before, Modi and Biden have nudged India and US towards joint construction of a stable Asian balance of power. So just understand what this is saying. Stable Asian balance of power system. That's the important part. The credit for moving India and the US closer than ever before goes to the assertive policies of Xi Jinping. Like I said, this is ironic given the extraordinary Chinese interest in keeping India and the US apart in Asia. Biden's remarks earlier this week at a political fundraiser in California got much coverage from the president's reference to Xi as a dictator. Just like Xi pushed us closer to the United States, Putin's war to Ukraine has changed the game for him as far as NATO is concerned. Underlying this is a new US strategy to build a more balanced Asia that suits Delhi, which is not seeking an alliance with the US but a partnership that will elevate India's capabilities and help contribute to stable Asian architecture. For the first time since the Second World War, the US-India security partnership now becomes a new and significant variable in Asian geopolitics. And you got to worry that they've got to worry, China, right? A pathway for deeper US-India ties has been laid, says Dhruva Shankar. A shared sense of challenges, deepening people-to-people and commercial links, and the diminishing relevance of prior obstacles such as Pakistan have paved the way for more meaningful India relationship. And thank God they pulled out of Afghanistan. Otherwise, Pakistan will always have been there front and center. The fact is that the US cannot preserve its technological and economic edge without a wide-ranging partnership with India. Equally and in a variety of ways that include but are not limited to investment, technology, security and market access, India's rise benefits tremendously from a constructive partnership with the US and its allies. Okay. And action time. India to kick off acquisition process for 31 armed drones from the US in early days. And because of this new US policy of putting a lot of investments in manufacturing in the US, this is something that I've always propagated Indian companies should do. Indian firms line up 2 billion US green energy investments. Now, what this 2 billion investment will do is, it'll force multiply into tens and twenties of billions of dollars worth of investment, right? PM India, US are not just forming policies, we are shaping destinies, and this is a really neat t-shirt. The future is AI, America and India. And this is Biden's present to Modi, right? Now is the time, seize the moment. PM and Biden urge tech czars on both sides. And we have, after meeting PM, Amazon CEO announces fresh 15 billion investment. And these are the things that really matter, right? India becomes 12th member of Club on Critical Minerals. India, US will work on key pharma inputs to cut China reliance. So this also will play into the South, because the South is struggling with medicines, with vaccines. And like I said, the contradictions because of what you put out there is more or less a white lie when you go to the United States. Oh, that's okay. But it plays out because it's global media, right? It's global social media. Congress targets Himanta and Hussein Obama tweet. If you remember, Obama went out and had a sit down with Christiana Amanpour, an interview, and there he went on and told us how bad it was if we didn't take care of our minorities. We just could have a blowback. A lot of countries have broken up. We shouldn't take our country for granted. And there could be a lot of truth in that, right? It's taken a lot to build this and keep this country together. But then you have this Himant Biswa Sarma, right? And it's all negative news. You had positive news, now you have all negative news. You got this guy front and center. Modi spent all his time trying to tell everybody in America that everybody is equal. He's gone and destroyed it. And so is this girl. Nirmala leads BJP attack on Obama. He bombed 6 Muslim countries. Yeah, look, we bombed apparently some trees in Pakistan. Why? Because they were terrorists. Why is the US bombing? And this is because we keep shouting everywhere, terrorism, terrorism, terrorism. Go, everybody should go after terrorism, Sitaraman. When those 6 Muslim countries that were bombed, countries were not bombed. Specific targets were bombed. Get your facts right. The problem with these people like Sitaraman, Piyush Goyal, I don't know. Making India great tomorrow. Well, we are not going to do it with people like Sitaraman and Piyush Goyal. I can tell you that. Making India, or with Himanta Biswa Sarma, or with Amit Shah. We're not going to do it. Making India great tomorrow. Modi-Biden summit harvested a bounty of potential. Its tech elements on space to semiconductors are particularly impressive, but absorbing so much technology will be a challenge, and a bigger challenge if our domestic Chetan Bhagat wrote, we keep harping about the back, cut and paste culture, Dronacharya, Shishya, Guru culture, not going to happen. Agreeing to merge forces on global digital infrastructure where India can claim to have the most to contribute is about US recognizing the West and China are in the doghouse with the global South. India still has credibility in this part of the world and from its own experience has solutions. So Modi is winging his way to, guess what? For domestic and reasons of trying to take control of the narrative of the global South to Egypt. Why domestic politics? Because he's trying to show the world and the Indian Muslims that he actually is not against Muslims, right? Modi, LCC elevate ties to strategic levels. PM receives order of the Nile, Egypt's highest honor. PM meets members of Pura Committee. But Egypt is critical for India's geostrategic ambitions, okay? Just let's face that. But that was happening. India's other, at one time, a solid pole was in disarray. Wagner chief takes Russia logistical hub for Ukraine invasion without firing a shot. Almost at Moscow's door, Putin ex-ally and warlord announces he's retreating. Mutiny ends but dents Putin's image. Wagner boss to move Belarus under Kremlin. And what does Srivalam Chawla writes? Cholia, Wagner's attempt coup flag risks for Russia's strongmen. Russia is in uncharted waters today. The system that kept the lid on dissatisfaction for so long has developed cracks and the genie threatens to slip out of the bottle. The chickens of Ukraine's war have come home to roost and no one can confidently place bets on the destiny of a regime struggling with its structural flaws. Right? This is for the rest of the world to worry. Because while the global image is diminished, while internally also may have problems, he still continues to enjoy the largest land mass in the world, lots of natural wealth, and a people that will fight back, right? A big blow for Putin's image. Mr. Putin's aura of invincibility has suffered due to the revolt. It may be tough to recover from. And what does she write? This is Nandan Unnakrishnan. After the coup in Moscow that never was, Putin's stock in Russia may go up after Prigozhin's pulled back, but the president may also accede to the Wagner chief's demand on removing key Russian military leaders. So there is trouble for both. I think both the folks that are struggling as far as are trying to create a pole for themselves, right? And both these are essentially, you look at it this way, are China and Russia. And what do you have here, right? You have what do we have here? Let's see. Reading out some of the newspapers, you have this. Unfinished apartments are now a sign of China's housing crisis. Xi keeps Putin waiting on gas pipeline as Kremlin bargaining power weakens. EU gets cuts expected to outweigh Russian imports. Then you have jobs on the line as China recovery runs out of steam. Moscow is the target of a drone attack, bringing the war home. Cleverly backs Kyiv strike on Moscow suburbs. Chinese Muslims fight police to save mosque. Musk under pressure to steer US-China cooperation. So Musk is in play in India and in China. Funny, right? Fading recovery in China reveals deeper problems. So you got an issue about this huge debt diplomacy that the West is pushing through because essentially China's in trouble. India, China kick out journalists, Biden's foreign policy for the middle class, Poland hardens its defense against Russia. So what essentially China pushed India into the US corner. Similarly, what's happened here is with Ukraine, almost all of Central Europe has gone the other way, right? Poland being at the top. Blinken sees EU drawing closer on China's stance, both of them. UAE urges US to secure Gulf after Iran seizes tanker. Western nations raise pressure on Erdogan to admit Sweden into NATO. Kyiv seeks to rattle Kremlin ahead of offensive. It has. The China fund quietly investing in private equity. So they're doing it secretly. Tokyo threatens to down nuclear missiles. Jobs on the line as China recovery runs out of steam, folks. Putin's war is America's opportunity. Absolutely is. China takes lead in car exports. India should be out there. Then you have seized for laying mines in parts of Wagner fighters. Right? That's amazing. Russian. Then you have Ukraine goes on front foot in search of weak spot on decisive push. Then you have Ukraine troops intensify frontline raids in apparent shift in strategy. India-US defense ties can be a game changer, which they are now, right? Then you have Patriot missile is a hero of Ukraine war, right? Pirelli boss takes on China's Communist Party. Hear that, right? Ukraine takes villages from enemy forces. Shadow of Taiwan hangs over China's bid to break West's plains stranglehold. Then you have Ukraine claims counteroffensive has liberated 3 villages in Donetsk. Then you have China is cancelled for many foreign investors. You have that already, right? Shadow of Taiwan, Ukraine takes Pirelli boss, American, then you have Patriot missiles, Ukraine troops intensify, search for weak spot done, where? US seeks to define risks in Russian-China AI. Then you have growth fears prompt Beijing stimuli. Ukraine and Russia vie for support from African leaders, which didn't happen. Micron set 600 million Chinese chip expansion, also happening in India. China sees Taiwan and Ukraine as very different ball games. I think they're similar. Berlin and Beijing try to reset a relationship with new calculation. There's going to be trouble. Xi Blinken meet as they pursue a thaw. Didn't happen. China accepts the new Indo-Pacific reality. Blinken fails to reopen China military channels. Ukraine forces pay heavy price as they inch towards Mariupol. France backs Kyiv NATO bid to pressure Russia into ending war. Xi Jinping is humiliating the US. Absolutely. Xi and MBS look to leave West in the dust. Modi state visit to US heralds closer ties as India joins push against China, right? And huge ad to democracies under shared vision in Washington Post from all the big companies, right? African leaders had a peace plan. Putin had no interest. Then you have right groups. Some officials want issues with Modi raised. This was the issue I was talking about. Then you have Kyiv reassesses tactics, slow push. West aims to bolster Ukraine reconstruction. India should be there. Biden defends India's democracy as Modi visits. But there's a dichotomy, right? US overtakes China for South Korea exports. Biden woos Modi to forge a new special relationship. Biden welcomes Modi to White House. Biden Modi hails strong ties during state visit. And protests were going around everywhere. So that's it. That's where you have it. Closed down. We'll pick up the foreign policy thread later. I'm going to do some issue on the Pacific, India Navy and all that stuff. But in the meantime, 3 cheers, Jai Hind.